Imagine waking up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. No land, no ships, no rescue, just endless water stretching to the horizon in every direction. For most people, this would be a death sentence. But in 1982, one man found himself trapped in exactly that situation. For the next 76 days, he would battle hunger, dehydration, violent storms, and even sharks. He would come face to face with death more than once, and somehow, against all odds, he survived. Long before he became known for one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded, Stephen Callahan was simply a man who loved the sea. Sailing wasn't just a hobby for him, it was a passion. The ocean represented freedom, adventure, and endless possibilities. In 1982, Stephen decided to take on one of the biggest challenges of his life, a solo journey across the Atlantic Ocean. He spent months preparing for the voyage. Every piece of equipment was checked, emergency supplies were packed, and navigation plans were carefully reviewed. Confident and prepared, he set sail across the Atlantic, unaware that his life was about to change forever. For several days, everything went exactly as planned. The weather was calm, the wind was steady, and the journey felt peaceful. Stephen settled into a routine and enjoyed the freedom of life at sea. But one night, while he was asleep, a powerful impact suddenly shook the boat. He woke up instantly. Water was rushing into the vessel, and within moments he realized the terrible truth. His boat was sinking. Hundreds of miles from land and completely alone, Stephen had no time to panic. He quickly gathered whatever emergency supplies he could reach and loaded them into a small inflatable life raft. Then came the moment every sailor fears. He climbed into the raft and watched helplessly as his sailboat slowly disappeared beneath the waves. Everything he owned was gone. The boat that carried his dreams across the Atlantic vanished into the ocean, leaving him alone with nothing but a tiny raft and an endless sea. The next morning, reality hit hard. There was no rescue ship on the horizon, no aircraft searching for him, no sign of help, just endless water in every direction. Stephen knew the supplies he had managed to save would not last forever. If he wanted to survive, he would have to adapt. His first major challenge was water. Although he was surrounded by it, not a single drop was safe to drink. The Atlantic Ocean was filled with salt water, and drinking it would only make things worse. As the days passed, his fresh water supply began to disappear. Every sip became precious. By the 6th day, dehydration was becoming a serious threat. Then the weather changed. Dark clouds gathered above him, and rain began falling from the sky. Stephen quickly collected as much rainwater as possible. What most people would consider bad weather became his lifeline. Every drop bought him more time. Food soon became another problem. His emergency rations were running out, and unlike rainwater, food wouldn't simply appear. If he wanted to survive, he needed another solution. That solution was swimming beneath him. Stephen began fishing using simple tools and incredible determination. It wasn't easy, but eventually he caught his first fish. That catch represented far more than a meal. It was proof that survival was possible. Day after day, he learned to conserve energy, collect water, catch fish, and adapt to one of the harshest environments on Earth. But the ocean wasn't finished testing him. One afternoon, Stephen noticed a large shadow moving beneath the raft, a shark. Then another. Soon, sharks became a regular part of his life. Sometimes they circled below him for hours. Sometimes they brushed against the fragile raft. Every encounter reminded him how vulnerable he truly was. One mistake could be fatal. As if sharks weren't enough, the Atlantic Ocean introduced another challenge: storms. Massive storms rolled across the sea, transforming calm waters into towering waves. Strong winds slammed into the tiny raft while heavy rain poured from the sky. During these storms, Stephen often wondered whether the raft would survive the night. The waves tossed him around relentlessly, and every crash felt like it might be the one that ended everything. Yet somehow, each morning he woke up alive. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a routine of survival. Catch fish, collect water, protect equipment, stay alive, repeat. But surviving physically was only part of the battle. Stephen was completely alone. No conversations, no human contact, no voices, nothing but the endless sound of wind and waves. The loneliness became almost as dangerous as hunger and thirst. Every sunrise looked the same. Every sunset marked another day without rescue. Then one day, after weeks adrift at sea, something incredible happened. Stephen spotted a ship in the distance. For the first time in weeks, hope exploded inside him. Rescue had finally arrived. He quickly prepared his emergency flares and launched them into the sky. Surely someone would see. Surely this nightmare was finally over. But nothing happened. The ship continued moving. Stephen launched another signal. Still nothing. Slowly, the vessel disappeared beyond the horizon. His best chance of survival vanished before his eyes. The emotional impact was devastating. After everything he had endured, hope had been ripped away from him once again. Many people would have given up after that moment. Stephen didn't. He understood that as long as he was alive, there was still a chance. By day 60, survival had become a battle of pure determination. He had lost a significant amount of weight. His muscles were weaker. His skin was badly damaged by constant exposure to the sun. Every task required effort. Every day felt harder than the last. Yet he refused to quit. He stopped thinking about weeks and months. Instead, he focused on surviving one day at a time, one fish at a time, one storm at a time. As the days continued passing, Stephen realized that survival was no longer just a physical challenge. It was a mental one. His body was exhausted, but his mind remained strong. He refused to surrender to fear. He refused to surrender to loneliness. And most importantly, he refused to surrender to hopelessness. Day 70 arrived, then day 71, then day 72. Every day felt like a lifetime. The Atlantic Ocean stretched endlessly around him, just as it had on the first day. Nothing suggested rescue was near, yet Stephen continued surviving, continued waiting, continued believing. Then, on day 76, everything changed. As Stephen looked across the horizon, he noticed something unusual. At first, he wasn't sure what he was seeing. Distance and exhaustion had fooled him before, but this time was different. The object remained visible and slowly grew larger. It was a boat, a real boat. For a moment, Stephen could hardly believe it. After 76 days of hunger, storms, sharks, loneliness, and uncertainty, rescue might finally be within reach. The boat continued moving closer. Then something incredible happened. The fishermen on board saw him. After more than 2 months lost in one of the largest oceans on Earth, another human being had finally spotted the tiny life raft. Rescue was no longer a dream. It was real. As the fishing boat approached, Stephen felt a flood of emotions he could barely describe. Relief, disbelief, gratitude, exhaustion. For 76 days, survival had been his only goal. Now, for the first time in months, that fight was finally coming to an end. The fishermen helped him aboard and immediately saw the condition he was in. The hunger, the sun damage, the exhaustion, and the scars left by 76 days of relentless struggle. Yet, despite everything, he was alive. Against all odds, Stephen Callahan had survived. Not because he was the strongest man in the world, not because he possessed extraordinary powers, but because he refused to quit. When his boat sank, he adapted. When water became scarce, he found solutions. And after 76 days alone in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, Stephen Callahan proved exactly that.